Hello and welcome back to episode 2 of Talking Baseball with Pars and Vinny. I'm your host, Vinny Messana. I'm joined with my co-host, Coach Paul Parsolano. Episode 2, after a brief hiatus due to the holidays, we just wanted to take a little time away, but it actually worked out because we got some huge news yesterday with the Mets acquiring Francisco Lindor, a four-time All-Star rather, and also a great pitcher, number 2 pitcher in Carlos Carrasco.
Well, I wouldn't say great. Quality. We'll go there.
Quality number 2, but I'm upselling them. But before we get into that, just a quick word from our sponsor, Brothers 3. Did you miss out on having swimming pool this past summer because of COVID-19? Don't let your family miss out again on another summer of swimming pool fun. Smart pool shoppers are purchasing their pools right now from Brothers 3, so they will be prepared for next summer, whether we are trapped at home or not. Let Brothers 3 assist you in planning your backyard now, and you and your family will be ready to enjoy next summer. Call Brothers 3 Pools at 516-735-7435, and let's get you started on your way to family fun. All right, Coach, so right before we went to our sponsor break there, talking about Carlos Carrasco, Francisco Lindor, and from a Mets fan perspective, you got to be thrilled. I mean, there was a long period of time, many years, where there was no, blockbuster trades. There was no expensive free agents, at least not guys in their prime. So, I mean, what was your thoughts when you got that alert around 12:30 through 1 o'clock yesterday?
Well, I won't say we haven't tried in the 2000s, late 2010s. But it was Jason Bay. There were guys, but this is the first can't miss. Mm-hmm. This is the one guy, like Piazza. We were talking about this beforehand. The Piazza trade, the Gary Carter trade in the 80s. Mm-hmm. This was not the last piece, but the piece to bring us to that East Coast Dodgers vibe that Steve Cohen was talking about. Mm-hmm. And it's a whole new world. And look, we've been down this road. We've had superstars come in. I heard this comp, actually, the Carlos Baerga, Roberto Alomar comp.
Well, that would scare me.
and that's what I thought. And it's not the same player. Baerga was on the way down. Mm-hmm. This guy's in his prime. He's, 27?
Yep. Yeah, I think the Roberto Alomar thing would be unfair because I was looking it up. He was 33 when the Mets acquired him. Granted, he did have a great season the year before.
He did,
but again,
330, I think.
Yeah, but again, he was older, so we'll use that as an excuse. Baerga, a little bit before my time. I know he had some good years when the Indians were.
He was never Lindor in his prime, though. Carlos was never that guy.
And the other thing with Lindor is that he's a two-way player. He's not just a hitter. Exceptional fielder. I've watched some of those highlights just to get excited. Hit range to both sides.
Yep.
The Mets have never really had a two-way superstar at shortstop outside of a 4-year stretch where Jose Reyes was
say, you got to give Reyes. Yeah. He was a 60 steal, an 80 steal, 20 triple, 20 home run guy for like 4 years.
Yeah, for a couple years. And it's amazing when you look back on the Mets' position player history. Outside of a few names, they really have
names from your generation are position guys.
Yeah, really, it's David Wright from, not taking anything away, but when you really dive into the numbers, his prime was 2005 to about 2008. He had a 4-year stretch where he was probably the best third baseman in the game. Took a little bit of a nosedive, but, had his All-Star appearance in 2013. Mike Piazza, Hall of Fame catcher, one of the best offensive players of all time. But third base really had been like a weight of
black hole.
Yeah, outside of Howard Johnson, a 30-30 guy.
Agree.
Yeah, and then Jose Reyes, as I mentioned, Darryl Strawberry. Really not much to write home about. Now, Francisco Lindor is a guy that, if the Mets lock him up, 7 or 8 years, hopefully, of all-star production.
Yes. It's just Mike, when Piazza went to the Marlins and there was all that buzz of him coming to the Mets, and they weren't sure, and he had the animosity with the Dodgers. We knew if we got Mike, he wasn't going to miss. Mm-hmm. Like, when he came, we knew he had that first 2-week stretch where he was kind of struggling.
Yeah, it was pressing.
And then he lit it up that last month and a half, and every Met fan's like, oh, my God, this is the guy?
Yeah.
This is Lindor. He's not – I hate this. Nothing's ever an absolute in baseball. You know that. But this is a surefire, can't-miss guy to be the face of your franchise. You can't miss with this guy.
Yeah, I completely agree. And as far as from an excitement level, you can talk about other acquisitions that the Mets have had in the past that flamed out. But I saw yesterday, almost completely in unison, Met fans were ecstatic. And the only thing I could relate it to most recently was Johan Santana. He was coming off 3 Cy Young. No, he won 2 Cy Youngs. Yep. Probably should have won the third in 2005, but didn't get it. So anyway, a great stretch. Mets acquire him when they needed to get a starting pitcher at the most. and he came over, and he almost won the Cy Young in 2008. If you remember, he went 16-7, I think, with about a 2.5 ERA. Took the ball on 3 days rest.
The 3 days rest game.
Which is what Met fans always wanted. It's like, hey, we don't want to look at the back of your baseball card. We want to perform down the stretch when it matters, and he did. And from what I've seen from Lindor in the past, I haven't watched him every single day, but you see him in the playoffs. Grand slam against the Yankees in the ALCS. Yeah. Does it in the big moments and looks the part. That's another issue is you want guys that can handle it, right? I'm sure you've seen over decades of time, like Met players that came in via free agency or trades, and they just weren't built for New York. How about like in the early 90s?
The first guy that there's a generational, obviously, is a Met fan. In '82, the Mets. This one, and this is funny. That's when the Wilpons bought the Mets. Was '80. And the Magic is back, and then they started dumping money in. In '82, they spent a fortune on a guy named George Foster, who was with the Cincinnati Reds in the '70s. He was a middle-of-the-order guy, 52 home run guy. Came to the Mets, and he hit 13 home runs his first year, like 17 his next year, and then he had 2 years of like 30. But by then, the Met fans were so salty about him that he never got his just desserts. And in '86, we released him before the season even ended. We released him in August and split the time with Mookie and Dykstra. That's when Mookie eventually started playing every day. We got rid of Foster, and then Mitchell came in. So we released Foster. But Foster came in, we thought he was the savior. And he disappointed. And then you go into the late 80s with all the Met trades and all that stuff. But the Foster trade was the first time we spent a ton of money on a dude in my lifetime, my childhood. And he flamed out. He just literally flamed out. He hated the press. The Met fans were booing him. I was like, oh, this is awful.
Yeah, and then you had in the early 90s, you could almost put
that
to another.
Right?
Yeah.
No, we traded for Saberhagen, right? It was a trade for Saberhagen, and the free agent was Vince Coleman and Bonilla.
Yeah, so that was kind of, they called that the worst team that money can buy.
Yes, Eddie Murray was our first baseman.
Yeah, yes. A Hall of Famer that just wasn't built for New York, would you say, right?
Yeah, he never spoke to the press, so he was invisible. Like, you'd watch him play, but you never heard him on TV, never did interviews. But he wasn't the worst. I think he drove in 99 runs that year, Murray. Bonilla was the guy, and Coleman was awful. He was awful.
So I would say the big takeaway from it, though, is that those are guys that, by and large, were not really built for New York, did not really like engage with the press, did not engage with the fans. Lindor isn't that guy. We've already seen he the way he is with the media, very gregarious personality, loves it. You can picture his face on billboards.
Yep.
Like I mentioned, if Steve Cohen opens up the massive wallet, he's going to be here for the next probably, I don't know, 8 to 10 years.
I think he's not going anywhere. I think they well, you know what? Look at all the shortstops coming out at the end of the year. Yeah. So, all right, that doesn't work out. We just paid for him for a year to get to a World Series, the goal. Yeah. And it doesn't work out. All right, so we'll go get, Seager or Correa's a free agent.
Yep. Trevor Story. So I think it's a great day to be a Met fan. I think that the National League probably got the first taste of what is to come for the Mets. And by that I mean that they're no longer the laughing stock. They're not just talk. They're not looking for back pages. You're getting guys in their prime. You're getting competent ownership. Jared Porter with who was the the right-hand man for Theo Epstein for 3 World Series rings. They're going in the right direction, I would say. And then, by the way, let's throw in Carlos Carrasco, who had a 2.9 ERA last year. So I think the Mets are on the right page right now. And they haven't won the World Series. We're not crowning them champions, but I think they're moving in the right direction for sure. So that I wanted to touch on that first because free agency has been such a slow-moving process this year, and it wasn't even a free agent signing, but it got the people talking and for the right reasons. For
well, I want to ask you this: your generation is that Reyes Wright group, right?
Yeah.
Met fans loved Jose Reyes.
Absolutely.
Electric, right? Running all over Shea Stadium. They got him, but a better version of him. And Reyes was an absolute all-star. Mm-hmm. Now you got a 30 home run hitting Jose Reyes his arm is stronger than Reyes' arm.
Yeah.
From multiple arm slots, and he's more creative, and he has the same kind of range Jose did, but his hands are better. Yeah. It's like having Jose Superman edition.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's so exciting.
Reyes was electrifying.
He was awesome. People forget
how
awesome. I know we got the crappier one, second run.
Yeah. Which kind of sours the taste in people's mouth because, there was no reason for the Mets to use him as much as they did in 2018. That was just a very poor team. Him and Jose Bautista were getting at bats.
He had those personal issues, and people he was kind of tainted by that.
Yeah, by the end of it, he wasn't.
Which is ridiculous.
It didn't feel like he was one of our guys anymore. But the 2005, even up to 2011, he won the batting title,
He was
taking
on the
himself
cover of
out.
a video game. What was he on the cover of?
Was it-
No, I don't think it was the EA one. I think it was maybe it was 2K. He was on the
2K.
cover. He was on the
Yeah.
cover of 2K. I know Wright was too.
Yeah,
But I think
and you
Jose
get
was
that-
on the cover.
And you get that by being an electrifying
Yes.
player during an era where there was a lot of that. Now I think there's probably even more. I mean, that's more of a subjective argument, but every era has, that type of exciting young talent. But he was right at the forefront of it. So, I wanted to make sure that we got to that. I would say as far as the rest of the offseason, where do you see some of these other guys going? Springer seemed like a slam dunk to go to the Mets. Now, I don't know if that's the
Toronto,
case.
you hear speculation from all these teams, but at the end of the day, like I heard the Mets are Jackie Bradley's the next direction, but
Yeah.
look, we don't know because certain sports writers gear us one way and then we read something the other way.
Yeah.
The Blue Jays seem to be in on everybody, and they always seem to have money. So I'm
And yet they
assuming-
haven't signed anybody.
That's
the
what I
money
mean.
thing.
Like, are these guys holding out because of COVID-related reasons, or are they just waiting for the right offer, or they're trying to?
They also
get more
don't know
money?
what's going on with the DH. That's
Oh, touche. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're going to change the DH this year, which they should. They absolutely. Even I'm an old purist. I thought the National League should be hit pitchers hit. I'm in on universal DH. After watching it, I'm in on it.
yeah.
I'm in.
It's more jobs, and look, after watching teams' lineups like the Mets when they have the DH,
Yeah.
they're a perfect example of why they should have it because you have two outstanding hitters in Alonso and Smith.
Yep.
If they don't have it, now what? We got to watch Degram potentially get hurt in the batter's box or running on the bases. Like
Or
they might
get pinch hit for in a 1-1 game in the
Yeah.
seventh inning because we can't score any runs and
now
he's
he's
at
gotta
70
come
pitches,
out,
but we
yeah.
got a pinch hit for him. Yeah.
Yeah,
100%.
I'm just not in favor of having it personally. But and then when you look at a guy like Bauer, we talked about him last week just as far as his persona and everything. But as far as where's this guy gonna go? There's not a lot of options anymore. If I had to guess, I would say he's gonna go to the Angels because their owner Artie Moreno has shown that appetite to write the big contracts in the past with guys like Albert Pujols, and they had C.J. Wilson in 2011 when they were trying to make a run for it, and they always need pitching. And
Yeah.
Mike Trout is
Offense
coming
is
on
there,
30.
yeah. But their pitching staff was considered the worst in baseball last year.
Yeah.
Is one guy going to make a difference? I guess it's a great start.
Mm.
But look, I saw something on Twitter today. Bauer was on a couch with a Met hat on.
Yeah.
And he was pontificating about Mets, what do you got going on? And this and that. So it seems to me like you might be able to get him to come to the Mets or some other maybe the Dodgers will make a thing to appeal because of the Padres
Well, let me
making
ask
all
you
these
this.
moves.
Do you think he's overplayed his hand to the point where he's going to have
Nah,
to take a
he's too
one-year
good.
contract?
He's too good. So somebody's going to pay him. It's just a matter of if anybody peels off. Like, are the Mets going to peel off now that they got Carrasco and say, all right, instead of us going with Trevor for 4 years, let's just go get Springer and we'll go with some young guys like Peterson at the back end of the rotation and
Yeah.
see what happens? Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, I think my
I still
prediction...
want him, though. Now I'm greedy because now I'm
Yeah.
seeing Cohen doing all this. I'm hearing Chris Bryant stuff.
Yeah, it's not our money. I mean, at
Yeah.
the end of the day, like, if I had to make a prediction, I think he's destined for the West Coast. He's got his Watch Momentum company, so I think he likes to be on the West Coast where he can do his content. And they have they're based in Arizona, their spring training complex, which is good for their content machine that they have going on. But yeah, if you're talking about from like just a vantage point of being a fan, going for it, like the Mets, if you add that guy to the rotation, a Cy Young winner, now you get the last 3 Cy Young winners in the same rotation.
And
It's
Syndergaard's
exciting.
back, right?
Yeah.
Syndergaard will be back.
It's like a mid-season pickup and having a guy with World Series
Can
experience.
you imagine
So-
that's the guy who comes that you pick up in June is Noah Syndergaard?
Yep, that's something to dream about for the Met fans. So I don't want to make the whole episode about that, but it's hard to not be excited about the direction that they're going in. So
Yes, agree.
But when it comes to great players, this is a Long Island-based base show, and that's where your roots are, where my roots are.
Yep.
When it comes to great players that you've coached over the years or that you've coached against, it seems like they always have a common denominator, whether it be from a skill set point of view or what's between the ears. So from your experience, you worked with guys, whether it be giving pitching lessons or coaching, what makes these guys tick, great players?
They never. Good way to put it. You know what? Just off the top of my head, they're not afraid to fail. You know what I mean? They embrace the big moment. They embrace you feeding their ego, if it makes sense. Like, there's no fear in that kind of player, and you can tell a player to have no fear. But the ones that genuinely have no fear when they play the game and they attack whatever they're attacking, whether it's defensively or offensively, it's some of the guys. It's just innate. Like Logan's that we were talking about. This Logan and Nick.
Logan O'Hoppe, yep.
But And Nick and Logan both are like 2 heartbeat a minute guys. Like they're very even keel, but they're the most intense guys when they're playing, but you don't see it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Those guys are built a little different, and I was that confidence in their abilities. And because, look, I've seen pitchers that have the same kind of stuff as Nick, but aren't as successful. Logan, I've seen great catchers before. I played with Keith Osick. He was a 12-year major leaguer. Keith was an unbelievably talented dude. You know what I mean? And Keith is very different. You played for Keith.
Yep.
Keith's personality is very different than Logan's. But at the end of the day, Keith had no fear when he played. Keith was fearless when he played. Even as an 18-year-old kid, he was, you just could see it. I coached completely different, but I coached him in baseball. A guy named Wally Zerbiak. Obviously, we know him from the NBA and Miami of Ohio, but he was our shortstop at Cold Spring Harbor.
Really?
And in 1994, we won the state C title. It was my second year coaching. He was our starting shortstop and our number 1 pitcher. He went 10-0 as a pitcher. I think he made 2 errors all year at shortstop and batted 390 or 400.
Did not know
and we
that.
won the state C title, yeah.
Wow.
And Wally averaged 40 a game, 3 months earlier with the basketball team, and they went to states and lost to Elton Brand's team, I think, in the state finals. And he scored 48 of their 54 points. Wally's like Logan and like Nick and like Keith. It's just they're just not afraid to fail. It's just there's just something there, and it's an intangible that you can't quantify.
Yeah, and that's what I would come back to is just that mental toughness. When you say it goes hand in hand with the fear of failure, because sometimes when you put a guy in a big moment and they're worried about what can go wrong, as opposed to like focusing on an opportunity to be great. And it's something that you can't see. I mean, maybe like body language wise, is that something that you would ever pick up on? Let's just say throughout the season, you're going to put guys in the fire. Let's go back to your St. Joseph's days. So you're down in Florida. It's early on in the year. That's when you want to get a feel for, whether it be a freshman or a senior. Maybe a senior doesn't have that much experience. You're throwing them into a fire in a big game. Let's say you're facing Cortland. 8th inning. Are you going to see like body language maybe on a guy that really is embracing that moment in a positive way, and then there's going to be some guys that just don't look like they're comfortable?
It's funny, like there are guys like I'll use examples from St. Joe's. There was a guy, Paul Britt, who was a fearless player, and he was one of the best players. He should have been Player of the Year twice. I think he won it once. Paul was fearless when he played, and whenever he was up, you knew there was a difference that was going to be made one way or the other. And if it didn't work out, it just didn't work out. And the next at bat, a difference would be made. But I'll go back to Campanelli, who was our catcher, Dan Campanelli from Bayport, 2-time state champ in high school. Came to St. Joe's in 2016. We won 2 regular season titles with him catching and 2 regionals in the other 2 years. So we went to 2 regionals.
Did nothing but win.
Did nothing but win. And Dan wasn't the best hitter. His arm was okay. Catching-wise, he was okay. He didn't have the most athletic body. But all he did just happened to be the centerpiece of us winning, and guys all gravitated. What did Dan have that a catcher with an unbelievable skill set that can't compete, and Dan's winning the job over him in high school and in college? That weird intangible that, for whatever reason, Dan's just a winning player. It just works out for Dan, and it's hard to quantify. That's why I love baseball. You just you can't lock it in. If you can lock it in, you'd be a rich man.
And I think that's why they need to have scouts, because that's something that you can't see from a baseball card. And really, when you're making high-level decisions, you're talking about guys that are all talented. So it's not as obvious as saying, well, he looks the part. Because at some point, there's going to be that time when he starts to struggle, and now the question really comes into play: is he great? What's between the ears? Can he handle failure? And I was actually talking to somebody earlier today about when you're a big fish in a small pond and you're dominating. Let's say you go through a full year undefeated, but then you get to that next level in college and you go out there for the first time, maybe in a big stadium, and you walk a batter, maybe throw a wild pitch, guy on second base, give up a hit. Now for the first time, you're facing adversity. Your coach maybe has somebody warming up in the bullpen, and you really have to have that gut check time, and that's something that you really can't tell. It's a $1 million question, honestly. It's not something that you have an answer to, and you're talking about guys that are all very good, and when you're at the minor league level or even at the college level, you can't always tell if somebody's going to be handled.
And you could have 2 guys that both bat 370, and they're right in front of you. And one of those guys got a pinch hit in a tie game in the 8th inning. You got to pick one of those 370 guys. They both literally have the exact same stats. You take that intangible guy that always seems to work out. And as a coach, you know who it is. And you can't, like I said, you can't quantify it, but you'll always pick the one on the left because of that intangible. And whatever that intangible is, they're both the same player. the guy on the left seems to do it more than the guy on the right.
Yeah,
I wish
and
we
I'll
could,
give a more specific example at the professional level. So just to show exactly what I'm talking about, when you're talking about there's no such thing as a can't miss, Mark Appel was first overall pick in the country, not first round pick, first overall pick in the country out of Stanford. I read all sorts of publications. Everybody said he was
can't miss.
Can't miss. Putting it lightly, he was a potential perennial all-star. He didn't make it out of high A ball. And then you take Jacob Degram, who was a 10th round pick out of Stetson University, a converted shortstop, is unquestionably the best pitcher in the National League, right up there for the best pitcher in Major League Baseball. Yeah, I mean, if you want to say Cole or him, whatever, neck and neck. So
no, Cole's
the best.
I know it's apples and oranges, but that'll
be a conversation for another day. So talking about a 10th round pick, all-star, the guy's on a Hall of Fame trajectory right now.
Yep.
There's really no difference if you looked at those two guys in college. Like, they both looked the part. You know, Appel's a big, strong guy. So I'll put the ball in your court here. Why do you think that a guy that had 95-plus velocity was pitching in the Pac-12, Pac-10 against the best hitters in the country, pitching the Cape Cod League?
Yep.
Every scout gave their ringing endorsement. What goes wrong with some guys like that?
Desire, between the ears stuff, that personal disappointment. Some guys, when you pitch at that level, you're so used to being dominant. And boredom or just you start to get hit a little bit, you don't know how to handle that. Mm-hmm. The disappointment of the people around you, the disappointment in yourself, the not holding yourself to a higher standard, all those things. And look, you pitched in college too. There's a lot of things going on between the ears when you pitch, because as a physical person, you're already a finished product. But the ability to understand what's going on around you and
once sharks start to swim in your head, then
the holes in the dam and being able to put your fingers in the dam and stuff to stop the leaks. Some guys just don't have the ability to do that.
How about this that I think about sometimes when you're a college pitcher and you get drafted in the first round and you were at, let's say you pitched at LSU, like an Aaron Nola type, dominated SEC pitcher of the year, and you're thrown in front of 10,000 fans, scouts every game, and then you get drafted in the first round and you got to pitch in the Florida State League and it's 100 degrees, you're facing the same
in front of 11
six teams.
People.
Yeah, so I mean, you deal with kids of that at that level when they're in the Florida State League, and you talk to them after their start or after the season, and usually you get the same thing. It's boring, it's hot. Now, how do kids like that stay focused during those dog days of August?
Long game goals, because some guys just don't like that and then go into a hotel room eating fast food or whatever, the money they got for the day, and watching TV, sitting on a bed watching TV, getting up doing it again. Some guys don't want to do that. Guys like Logan and Nick, they'll go down to Florida and they'll do that for 3 months before their season even starts because they love it that much. Or Ben Brown and these guys, that you would love to do that. I'd wake up every morning at 8 in the morning and stay out till 10 at night just doing baseball things and go to a hotel room, laugh around with your buddies, maybe play cards and get up and do it again. Some guys aren't built that way. Like, who's a great player? Nick Grande. Didn't he just hang him up? He just lost the passion?
Yeah, I think sometimes, I think sometimes there's other factors. He wanted to go to law school, but if there's kids that hang it up at a young age, like you said, it's just a desire. Yeah. Sometimes it just it might not be for you. I don't know. But let me ask you this. I was thinking today about how teams can exploit the market right now with nobody wanting to spend. And let's just say, like the Mets, for example, they have an owner with all this money, but for whatever reason, he doesn't want to blow up the payroll and have $250 million. But you know what would be a great way to ingratiate yourself to your organization is by spending lavishly on the minor league players, because I was with Kyle Martin today, and he was talking about how it's very tough for players like him being at the low levels of the minor leagues. You have to fend for yourself. He's got to find a gym to throw bullpen sessions. He has to worry about his nutrition plan on his own.
Yep.
And then he's expected to be in top shape when the season starts. So if you're Steve Cohen and you have $14 billion, you could probably get a big advantage in the marketplace by making sure that all your minor leaguers are getting proper nutrition, maybe spending a little bit in that realm. I don't know specifically.
Kind of like
but
like they do down in the Dominican. They have those academies where the guys are in dorms together. They all hang out together. They're fed. They have nutritionists down there, and they have instructors for each position
Yeah.
specific coaches and stuff like that. They look out for them. They teach them how to finance their checkbook and do all that other stuff.
Not to get taken advantage by agents.
Yes. Yeah. Sure. You know what I mean? But that's outside the box because the minor leagues got pinched over the last 12 to 16 months, and they're reducing the draft and stuff. It seems like teams just don't want to pay guys to play baseball. It's gross, personally.
It's like they're looking at it on the macro level from like a financial point of view, and it's like, oh, well, the best players, well, the cream will rise to the top. But on the day-to-day, even the best players, maybe they don't want to be a part of this grind where they have no money and they have no direction.
And you just said it. Sometimes first rounders flame out, and 10th, 11th, 60 rounders like Piazza become Hall of Famers. And in baseball, actually this is great because I was talking with Sal, the varsity basketball coach, and he's friends with Jay Wright from Villanova, and they would talk about the draft and college recruiting. Like college, the big-time college basketball guys, they recruit 15 guys. All of them recruit the same 15 guys. Top 15 guys in the country, all of them go after. And they base their season based on the numbers they get. Like, say Duke got 11 and 15 this year, like they did. They got, like, the 11th player and the 15th player. Duke Coach K, he knows he's not winning the championship. I got the 11 and 15th guy. I'll hang around, but I'm not winning at all. The guy that got 1, 3, and 6, he has a chance. Like I think it was whatever team he said, North Carolina State. Somebody got like 1, 3, and 6. High school guys, he's fighting for a championship.
Yeah.
Coach K, he's got 11 and 15. He's just going to be a middle of the pack guy. That's why he was talking about he's canceling the Duke season, or they shut it down, or I don't know where he went with that. But the point is like those 15 guys are the only 15 guys in basketball. In baseball, you can find diamonds in the rough anywhere on this planet.
Yep.
So if you invest in the minor leagues, like you're saying, or at least allow these guys to play baseball, you might get that $200 million player for 11 cents.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned the college side of things because I wanted to go there next. And not a lot of kids from our area are lucky enough to go into those programs, the Dukes of the world, North Carolina. If you can get there, great. But I think one of the issues about Long Island baseball, and it really troubles me, is just the volume of players that go down south or go to a big time program and wind up coming home. And if they come home and they wind up having themselves a nice career, then that's great. But sometimes they don't. And for organization to post that somebody got a scholarship or went to a school, and then they really don't follow up on what ends up happening with the individual. And sometimes it's great. We have plenty of kids in pro ball right now, and that's a testament to the individual and everything that goes into it. But I really sympathize with the kids that, commit to a college. They put their heart on their sleeve.
They post it on Instagram.
Yeah, and that's really where I'm getting at, is that they're doing it for that short-term gratification. And then you don't usually get a follow-up about when they got cut or if they got 3 at-bats in their freshman year and they wind up transferring back home. So I guess the bigger issue is, what should people be prioritizing when they're looking to go to school? Because you look at a kid like Grande, for example, he probably could have went to any Division I school in the country, stayed home, got drafted, All-American. So I guess really that's what I would like to see more of, is Long Island kids staying local. If you want to go D1, that's fine. There's options to play around here.
Look, with the whole college and the Instagram put, I think that's a whole nother animal we could dive into.
Yeah, that's almost like a psychological
It is because, you got quality high school players diving into college, accepting colleges that just don't fit, but they don't want that round hole kind of square peg deal. They're chasing likes to get it over, just to get it out there. You know what I mean? Instead of finding the right fit. And I know it's people say it ad nauseum. You have to find the right fit. Guys always transfer. We were talking about this before. I told the St. Joe's guys, the way I looked at it with the classes, the freshmen want to make the team in college. As a freshman, your goal is to make the college roster. As a sophomore, you want to play. As a junior, you want to start. And as a senior, you want to win championship. So if you go with that rule of thumb as a college player, when you go into a program as a freshman, expect to find 3 dudes exactly like you playing short just like you do. And they look like you, they hit like you, they do everything like you, but they're older and they sat just like you're sitting now. It's a process. If you go into a college program thinking that you're going to be batting third, playing short, playing center, batting second, it doesn't work that way because other dudes have been waiting and biding their time in the college process. You bide your time. There's a class system. Everybody gets their chance. And if some of these guys go in as freshmen expecting to be a dude and they find out they're not a dude, they get out of Dodge instead of gutting it out to find another roster where they can be the dude right away. And there's too many of us, man. There's too many baseball players. But having an 18-year-old understand that math, that's a whole nother conversation.
Well, sometimes it takes getting humbled, I think. It's very hard to put an 18-year-old in that frame of mind of like, hey, what are you going to feel like after you fail and after you got humbled? They don't know because they haven't physically experienced that yet. So sometimes transferring isn't the worst thing in the world. I did, but the problem is you want to eliminate that if you can. You want to try to find a place. Like you said, it's ad nauseum now.
Man.
Yeah,
Build a
be
legacy,
somewhere,
sure.
Start as a freshman, see it out, win a championship with your brothers, and, be somewhere for 4 years. So that's really, I guess, what bothers me is when people are just like bouncing around colleges until they find the place that's going to bat them clean up and play them at shortstop. But
it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work that way. Chasing a team based on the sweatshirt, that we call a sweatshirt school. The name on the front of the shirt, that sweatshirt. I got to get out of here. I got to go to Albany. I got to go to Binghamton. I got to be that kind of guy. Well, maybe you're not that guy. Maybe you're a Division II guy. Maybe you'll be a wonderful player at Malloy and not Binghamton. Maybe you go to Malloy and have an opportunity earlier on in your career to be a starter, but you don't choose Malloy because Malloy apparently Division II is a red flag. Well, I don't know what these guys are thinking. Like Division III's, but you played Division III. I coached Division III. That's a rock star baseball. It's fun.
Yep.
Division II is even more fun. Division I. That's a job. You know what I mean? The fun isn't as much as the 2s and the 3s because you can still be a kid and play baseball and all that other stuff. One, it's a 12-month deal. There's a ton of other dudes that are just as good, if not better than you at that stage of your life. And you got to learn to eat it. And a lot of these guys, it's hard for them to eat it. It really is. It's hard for young guys to eat it.
I think it should not be frowned upon to go that route, to start at a Division III school.
What's wrong with that?
Dominate, make a name for yourself. If you want to transfer at that point, go for it. It's not to say that you can't make it to professional baseball from Division III.
That's what we're getting at, Vin. Like, is that the reason guys turn their blind eye to 3s and 2s and only want to go to Division I because you think you're going to be in the major leagues? Is that the end goal? Or is it to go to a 4-year school, maybe make it to a regional, play in a College World Series at any level, graduate, get a job, have a family, have a great life?
Yeah.
Like, is that the goal, or is it for you to go to the major leagues and be an MLB to show the video game? Is that the end goal? Is that why you're picking your college? I think those are the wrong reasons.
Yeah,
right?
and we could both attest to what that level of baseball is like when you make it to a regional at D3. At that point, if you just threw somebody that hasn't been watching baseball game in 50 years and you just threw them at SUNY Cortland, and it's
in a regional. Go ahead.
That last week of May, and you watch that, they wouldn't be able to tell you what level of baseball that is because you're watching a pitcher that's probably 88 to 90, that throws strikes, defenses that make the plays, offenses that are executing at a high level. I mean, I think that maybe on a first visit for a school, if you're in a regional, tell your recruits to come down to that game because that's going to get everybody to come down to Farmingdale or St. Joseph's. I mean, you coached it. You guys played some
Cortland in a
exceptional
regional.
teams, right?
We lost 9-7 to Cortland in a regional for that game to get to the World Series, and we lost to them. We beat John Hopkins the day before, was ranked 4th in the country. The guy throwing against us was throwing 93, 94, lefty, 6'6". You know what I mean? We won 1-0 thanks to Ryan Alois. You're welcome, Ryan.
I don't know how you guys beat him.
You know, exactly. Yeah. And we did. We won 1-0. But those are some of the best baseball games I've ever been a part of, and that's Division III, and I'm sure 2 and all that other stuff. At the end of the day, that's the biggest lie the kids don't get until they transfer, until their careers are over and they're coaching. Because I meet a ton of young coaches. Have you noticed how many just out of college guys are coaching now? Mm-hmm. And you talk to most of those dudes. Most of those dudes that are all coaches, and they're all good young coaches, most of them have already transferred once or twice, been to 3 schools, been to 2 schools, but they still have the game in them, and they bounced around so much, now the game's gone, but they love the game so much, now they're starting to coach. You ask them, say, hey, man, you know, maybe if you went around this a second time, would you have really researched where you want to be and what's the right fit for you? And they all say the same thing. Yeah. I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have done that.
Yeah.
And a high school player now has such a support system from their summer coaches to school coaches to private instructors. They have so many grown men that have been through the process that can give them that information. But they have to receive the information because we all give it to them. Mm-hmm. We all speak, most of us anyway, the guys that I know, we all tell these guys the truth about this transferring and picking a school when you're not ready to pick a school or picking a school based on certain reasons when you should be for that reason.
I guess the opposite side of that is there's more people that might give you the wrong information too or be motivated for the wrong reasons. If you have a summer coach, a school ball coach, and you have friends, your dad's friends played college baseball, you have maybe 15 people in your ear. You might just take the wrong information from somebody too. So I guess there's no easy answer. But the bottom line is that you have to consider that this is a long-term decision, and you're not. The career doesn't end after you post that picture on Instagram.
No, it does not.
It doesn't matter after the first, because that first day of school, I'm sure it's great. Everybody's, I saw you got 1,000 likes on that picture. You're going to SEC. And then now the hard work begins, and people don't want to realize that.
No.
I'm sure that first day of school when you meet that coach, and all of a sudden he doesn't care where you came from anymore.
No, of course not. Why would he? One of 45 dudes. Yeah, I'll figure it out. Get in there. Yeah, that's the biggest thing. But I guess chasing that, that's the worst thing a really high-level baseball player is picking a school just so we can throw it up there. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that I really feel sorry for, and maybe Axcess Baseball plays a part in that, because people want to see their name and they want to get that recognition, and the problem is that that's really when the hard work starts at that moment.
Yeah, but you give exposure to guys. But you're the only voice in our community. We've talked about this 1,000 times. You're good for us. You're good for Long Island baseball in general at every level, from Little League to high school, summer ball, all that, college. You give voices to guys that would never have a voice. So if it wasn't for you, this Instagram game, nobody would even understand it. I don't know. Who's that kid? Where are you from? Herrick's? What? You know what I mean? So I've opened up a lot of eyes, and have literally shined a light on a lot of players, man. And I know you hate it when I say that stuff, but it's the truth. And we talked about this years ago. But
well, I appreciate that, Pars.
It's the truth, though.
I think that's a good way to sign off on our second episode of Talking Baseball with Pars and Vinny. We're going to go a couple more weeks. I think, we're right in the heat of the offseason. You guys are getting ready for the season now.
Yep.
And just a quick once-over on St. Anthony's season. You guys excited for the year coming up?
We are excited. I got a Zoom meeting tonight with all 3 levels, and we're going to see what we got. We got 120 kids trying out for 3 teams. We'll see what we are. But like I said, COVID, who knows, man. But the one thing, we are going to have a season. And fellas, I know most of you probably watch this. We're going to have a season. Let's start prepping. Let's go.
Awesome. From your lips to God's ears.
Exactly.
All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in to our second episode.
Thanks, guys.